Welcome in to another Running with the Timberwolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. My name is Gabe Anderson, and I'm joined, as always, by Chris Emerson. Chris, how we doing?
We're doing good. We're in the middle of a little bit of a construction area at my
Yeah, I
house,
can
so
see
that's
that. Yeah.
so I got a little different background, but we're good. We're maybe I'm just getting ready for the season, just like the players.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're talking about one player in particular tonight, just like we did that last episode with the Nas Reed episodes. Tonight, we're talking about number 27, Rudy Gobert. And I just wanted to start with some of the Rudy slander that has
Oh God.
circulated out there. Of course, we've had Draymond Green. Just to go through some of them that I saw. Draymond Green said Kyle Anderson should get more minutes over Rudy Gobert. Kendrick Perkins said he regretted voting for him for Defensive Player of the Year. Paul Pierce basically said he should come off the bench. And then this one today came out. So this is a conversation, I believe, between Derek Lively and I believe George Pinson. I got to get the name.
Yep.
Yeah, Theo
Theo
Pinson.
Pinson. Yeah.
Theo Pinson. So basically, this is the conversation they were having. The two former teammates answered a question from a fan about playing time in the league being based on how much money a player makes. So here's the conversation. Pinson, perfect example. They played the Timberwolves. There's zero reason Rudy Gobert should have been on the court. Lively, zero. But you are paying him about 40 to 50 million. You better get your ass out there and figure the F-bomb out. Lively, and he didn't. Pinson, and he didn't. Lively, he did not. So what a dumb thing for Derek Lively to say. How about a guy, and we'll get into this in a second, how about a guy who could use the Rudy Gobert blueprint to be successful in the league to come out and basically say, hey, that veteran who's won 4 Defensive Player of the Year awards, yeah, he shouldn't have been on the court against us.
Including the current year. I mean, it's silly. It's easy to kill Rudy because Rudy doesn't really come back. He's French. He's light skinned. Everybody wants to jump on him for all these silly reasons.
Right.
I mean, it gets old. The problem is the NBA almost pushes this stuff. Like having Draymond Green be in the telecast for the Timberwolves after their known issues. Draymond
Right.
Green is a known
Right.
Rudy hater since Rudy took some supposed defensive players of the year away from him or makes him feel like some sort of lesser of a defensive player because Rudy's so good. I mean, it's pathetic. He choked him, and then they have him. First of all, if you choke anybody, the NBA should be like, or broadcasting should be like, this isn't the guy we want representing our brand. But I mean, America is what America is right now. So, I mean, that stuff sells. So I guess whatever.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Derek Lively only like 20 years old. So I wonder if it's just he basically since high school he's been hearing, oh, Rudy Gobert's a bum. Rudy Gobert is overrated. Obviously, the players ranked him as the most overrated player. So it's almost the sexy thing now, just to hey, let's hate on Rudy Gobert because we don't watch him night in and night out and don't understand him.
It's lame. It's easy. It's pathetic. But on a side note, I saw something on my Twitter. I think I've got like NBA University or something like that.
Yeah.
Did like a or like a March Madness like field of 64 type defensive player, and they're just ranking the defensive players, and they did a bracket system that all went down. Rudy was a 1 seed, and he ended up making it all the way, I think, to the Final Four. And I think he lost out to Anthony Davis. And then I think Bam ended up winning. And, like, that's fine. Like, those are different. They're different defenders. But, I mean, if you say Rudy Gobert is one of the top 4 to 5 to 6 defenders in the NBA, I'm fine with that. But if you want to say, like, he's trash, like, come on. Those are just people who don't know basketball and watch and, look at box scores. And there's a lot of people that do that, so that's fine. But, I mean, Rudy Gobert is what he is, and what he is a very effective defender who hides a lot of other people's issues, and that's what we needed, and that's what he gave us.
And what I've been really impressed by him last year in particular was actually, now obviously when I say this, people are going to point to, oh, what about that Luka play? Well, but what people forget is right before that Luka play, the play before, Gobert got switched on to Luka Doncic and actually played pretty good defense and made him put up a tough shot in the lane. What I've actually been impressed is the perimeter defense by Rudy Gobert. Now, I know that he plays drop coverage most of the time and he's a rim protector, but some of the times where he's one-on-one on an island with a good player, like I was watching some highlights of him against Julius Randle, he made him take some tough shots. He's not a bad perimeter defender. Obviously, his forte is in the paint, and we'll talk about that going forward, but he's not a terrible, for a big guy, he's not a terrible perimeter defender.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, he's coming in, he was 31 years old coming into the season, and we needed him to not just play drop because Karl-Anthony Towns can't play in that coverage. He's terrible. So we had to change things up. And Rudy Gobert, being a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year at the time, sure thing Hall of Famer, you know, max contract guy, 30 years old, says, okay, I'll try this whole new defensive style. And I think he buckled down. I mean, he looked really good out there.
He did.
And even on that Luka play, I mean, to force a guy to take an end of the game type step back 3 from 6-7 feet beyond the 3-point line or whatever it was, isn't exactly like it was a blow by that gave up a layup. Like, it's still decent defense. He still made him like take a big step back 3. Like, yeah, that's going to go in. That's, you know, it is what it is. It's a great player making a great play, but to kill Rudy for that is childish.
Yeah. And another thing that I noticed, I actually watched the end of that broadcast because it was on NBA TV. And what people forget is that was Luka's first field goal of the fourth quarter. Like, he made a miracle shot, and more power to him. And let's say this, you switch any big guy onto him that's 7 foot, they're going to have trouble covering Luka Doncic on the perimeter. They just are. You put Nick Claxton on him.
40 feet.
Yeah, you put Jared Allen on him. You put anybody in the league, any big guy. You put Cat on him. He's going to have trouble defending Luka in that situation.
It's almost like we don't have centers guard point guards for a reason. I mean, almost like there's a reason for that. You know, I mean, and we're not talking about like Tyus Jones getting this bucket. We're talking about, you know, near MVP Luka. Like, this dude's a monster. So yeah, that was pathetic. People like to pick him apart for these silly little things, but when it comes down to it, almost every team he's played on has been an elite defensive team. Is that coincidence? I don't think so.
No,
you know?
not coincidence.
The thing that he can deter, I'll say, so many people from coming into the lane or taking shots or cover up so many people's bad plays on the perimeter, that the things that his value is defensively just isn't shown up in box scores, but it shows up in the win-loss column, and that's all that really matters for real NBA guys and for the coaching staff.
And I was watching a kind of a breakdown of Rudy Gobert's game on Kenny Beecham's channel. I don't know if you've ever seen him, but he's a great YouTuber, got tons of channels. Go check him out. I know he doesn't need the plug because he's much bigger than us, but hey, I'll give him a plug anyway. And he was going through some of Rudy Gobert's film. He picked a random game and went through it. I loved what he said here. He said, it's not about what you do, it's more about what you take away. Like, it's not that Rudy Gobert is blocking every single shot, almost like a Wembanyama who has like 5-6 blocks a game. It's that teams are not going to the basket against Rudy Gobert. They're just not. You see so many times where like Jalen Brunson or Halliburton goes at Rudy and thinks, oh, nope, not going to do that, and goes around. It's almost like he doesn't have as many opportunities at blocking the ball just because he's such a presence down there that they don't even try him.
Of course. I mean, it's like if there's a major league hitter that's known to be able to crush fastballs, well, the pitcher's just going to throw curveballs. Like if Rudy's going to dominate the paint and dominate the rim, you're going to find a different way to attack him. I was listening to a podcast just the other day, Gilbert Arenas, I believe it was, and he was talking about when he was on Orlando and when Dwight Howard was in his prime defensively. And he said that they played the Heat with the Heatles and like LeBron and all those guys. And the Heat were just running through the league. But when they came to play Orlando, it was nothing but long jump shots because none of those guys attacked Dwight Howard. None of them attacked the rim. And it's the same thing. Like these guys just don't attack Rudy Gobert. It just doesn't happen. And to be honest, his defense is so impressive. And I get it. That's what he gets credit for. But the same stuff, like in between the lines that you don't see offensively is what almost is more important to me watching him play. Like when there's no one player on our team, I think, that caused our offense to be more stagnant when he was out, including Anthony Edwards, than when Rudy Gobert wasn't on the floor. Because when he wasn't on the floor, guys weren't moving. Guys weren't getting open off picks. Guys weren't getting open off his little screens. Guys weren't like there wasn't switches being forced to happen off that stuff. Like the flow wasn't there. Like he set 6 or 7 screens or picks every possession. Like the guy is an Energizer bunny. Super underrated is just his cardio. Like that guy goes hard as hell for 7'1" and 31 years old. He's the first guy down the court rim running. He's trying hard on every possession. And then not only that, he's coaching everybody defensively to get him in the right spot. His value is immense. Now, if you want to talk dollars and cents, he's making a lot of money. Maybe he's not worth that. But, I mean, there's no coincidence the moment he showed up in Minnesota, we started to look good and go to the playoffs.
Right. And like you mentioned, I think all but 2 years that he's been in the league, one of them was the first year where he really didn't play that much, wasn't part of the Utah Jazz's rotation. All but 2 years, the team that he's played on has been top 10 in the league in defense. And last year, obviously, number 1 in the league in defense. And another thing I want to mention, he's been another quality that he's had is he's been pretty available. Like he's played 89% of the games, regular season games for the Wolves that they've had in the 2 years that he's been here. And heck, he missed one of them for the birth of his child. So we'll give him a pass on that one.
It's crazy. And all those teams that have been top 10 in defense, question other than ours last year with Jaden, I bet you nobody was on a defensive, all defensive team other than him.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like he's playing with bums defensively and still carrying them there. Like Chris Finch said, and it's something that's going to stick in my head. There's two quotes that Chris Finch has said so far in his coaching tenure that have stuck in my head. The first one was he doesn't want anyone to lead the league in 3-point percentage. He said, if anyone on my team is leading the league in 3-point percentage, it means they're not shooting enough 3-pointers. And that stuck to me because it's like, if you're shooting 50%, you should be shooting 100 of those. You know what I mean? Like your numbers you're not shooting enough. And the other thing he said was, we don't win games because of Rudy Gobert. We don't lose games because of Rudy Gobert. Like he makes sure you don't lose games. It's different than winning. Like a guy like Anthony Edwards or Karl Anthony Towns, they'll drop 30 or 40. They'll help you win the game, but Rudy's going to keep you in it. Like he's going to stop the other team from going on a 12-point run. That run might only be 6 points because he'll handle it, grab rebounds, stifle their defense. Like those types of things, momentum killers, like offensive rebounds for putbacks when our shots aren't there. Like that's the kind of stuff you need. And if you're not getting it from a low budget guy, you got to get it from a high budget guy. And we've got, one of the best guys to do it.
Absolutely. And another thing I want to mention, because you have to bring it up, is other than the first round picks, what we gave up to get him. I mean, Malik Beasley, not with the Jazz. Patrick Beverly, not with the Jazz.
Not in the
Leandro
NBA.
Balmero, not in the NBA, really. Oh, yeah. He's in Israel, right? Or something?
Yep. Something.
Leandro Balmero,
Not in the NBA.
not in the NBA. Walker Kessler, falling out of their rotation. Jared Vanderbilt, injury prone and not with the Jazz.
Fell out of the rotation even when healthy.
Fell out of the rotation. And then, obviously, the first round picks. But, I mean, come on. Like, that is an absolute steal for Rudy Gobert.
We stole him. And we made it to the Western Conference Finals.
Yep.
I mean, right there makes the trade worth its while right now. There's no way that with Malik Beasley and Vanderbilt and Beverly and Walker Kessler, we're making Western Conference Finals. You know what I mean? That's silly. So remember, I don't know, you're obviously a football guy too a little bit. Peyton Manning, one of his last year, he goes to Denver, right? Wins the title.
Yeah, last couple of years. Yeah, a couple of years.
He was terrible offensively, right?
Right.
Like he would throw for like 150 yards and they'd win. But here's the deal. He got everybody where they needed to be. He was the offensive coordinator on the field. He would get every third down when it was needed. He would make all the plays and make sure anyone wouldn't make mistakes. That's what Rudy Gobert does for our team defensively and probably offensively too, but definitely defensively. Mm-hmm. He's getting everybody in the right spot. He's covering everybody's weakness. He's making sure that all the checks and the reads are right. Like, he's handling all that on the court, making everybody be accountable, teaching them that they have to work hard every day, teaching Anthony Edwards that you have to come and play hard every day. Something I don't think he was learning from Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell.
No chance.
So like that's sort of human building, showing, Jaden McDaniels what that's like. My biggest problem with Rudy Gobert is that we don't have a young defensive big for him to be learning the craft from that we can replace him with in a year,
right. Yeah.
That's the only thing I don't like is that we don't have anybody that he can directly coach or can suck off his or feed off his ability. So yeah, that's the only thing that I'm worried about. But him as a player, I know we got 80 games out of him or whatever. And I know he's going to give us 100% every single one of them. So that's all I can ask for.
And I want to bring it back to the beginning when we were talking about Derek Lively and his comments. Yeah. So something I wanted to mention. How about Derek Lively should see Rudy Gobert as the blueprint for his success as a player? Now, don't get me wrong. Derek Lively, great player, obviously had a great rookie season, but how is he going to succeed? One, set great screens for Luka and Kyrie. That's one. Two, lob threat, because he ain't doing a post move. What did Rudy Gobert do last year? Second most lob dunks in the entire league. Three, play impactful defense. You need to be Rudy Gobert, Derek Lively. And you had a great rookie year, but that does not mean because you beat someone in a playoff series that you should say, "Oh, this guy does not deserve to be on the court." It's crazy.
And I mean, even saying great behind so many things with Derek Lively is a little bit of a stretch. Like he had a fine rookie year. He was solid.
He had a good playoffs. I'll say that.
He was a solid player. Good for him. You shot 13 for 13 from 2 feet away from the rim. Amazing. Proud of you for catching those lobs. But like, come on, dude. You're nobody special yet. Remember Walker Kessler was the cream of the crop his rookie year until people were like, oh, we got to keep an eye on this guy. And then the next year he was nearly nothing. So until you've got 10 years in the league, until you've got a handful of all-star games under your belt, like, let's stop throwing slander, dude. It's kind of pathetic. And to be honest, Rudy Gobert, he's the type of guy that goes hard after, tries to destroy people like that. Like he tried to destroy Chet because Chet was the supposed next big guy, coming in. So I'm guessing next year in Dallas, after hearing this, Rudy Gobert is going to have a message that he's going to try to push to Derek Lively.
But that's the thing. Rudy Gobert is, if he plays it that way, is going to have a message for so many people.
And I think that's part of what he does.
Yeah. And now obviously the one bad thing obviously Rudy Gobert has done in his career was the dumb COVID thing where he got COVID and touched the mics. But other than that, he's the one that's been accused. Like he's the one that people are coming out and say, "Oh, he's garbage." He's not really throwing shade at anybody.
No.
He's really, if anything, just defending himself. And
he hardly does even that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. He just lets his play kind of talk for him.
Yeah. And the COVID thing, like when we all come back and really look at it in reality, touching a mic isn't going to do anything anyways.
Also, I'll give him this on that. If we're going to go back to that, I'll give him this. We didn't know. We didn't know that a worldwide shutdown was coming up. We didn't know what was coming.
Yeah. And it's not like Rudy Gobert infected the NBA. Like humanity did that. So yeah, that was whatever. It is what it is. I bet you if it was somebody else, nobody would have made as big of a deal. But they like to throw darts at Rudy Gobert. Yeah, I mean, he is what he is. Like that's one thing that bothered me the most about the trade. Is people were freaking out about, he's trash. He only did like, if you want him to play like Karl Anthony Towns, well, then you're going to be disappointed in that trade because he's a different player.
Right.
I mean, for as much as everybody's championing, or at least a certain or a big portion of community is championing Angel Reese right now for strictly just rebounding and playing okay defense, well, then they should love Rudy Gobert. I mean, he's led the league in rebounding almost every year. The only difference between the two is, Rudy Gobert also leads the league in field goal percentage and Angel Reese is around the bottom. But like the way that Rudy Gobert knows how he's effective and just punishes those things is all I want out of any player. Like, especially that long into your career, you should know what you're good at, be a specialist in that, and dominate. Like, he's almost always a league leading rebounder, almost always top 5-10 in field goal percentage, and almost always one of the best defenders. What more do you want? Like, I don't want him shooting more than 10 times a game. I don't want him shooting 15 times a game. I want him shooting 7 for 10, 8 for 10, something like that, maybe, or even like 8 shots, and then grab 13 rebounds, play defense, and we'll take the win to the locker room.
And for those who say that, at least statistically, that Rudy Gobert doesn't deserve Defensive Player of the Year, here's a couple stats for you. 7th in the league in win shares, 8th in block percentage, 6th in defensive rating, 5th in total blocks, and obviously anchored the best defense in the league.
That
should be enough right there. That one game.
And they won games. Yeah. Like some of those guys' block rates are for teams that are terrible.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to give, Victor Wembanyama the Defensive Player of the Year when their team was like 25th in team defense. Like, what are we talking about? Like, it's like having a cornerback in football that jumps every passing play. Yeah, you might lead the league in interceptions, but you also might lead the league in touchdowns given up. Like, that doesn't mean that you're a great player. Or like back when Allen Iverson and guys like that would lead the league in steals. Like, sure, if you take enough gambles on the perimeter, you're going to get some steals, but you're also going to get blown by and give up 4-on-5s all the time. So like what he does is anchors a winning team that's a successful defensive team, and he anchors them to wins in basketball games. And if that's not what you're into, then maybe we're talking two different things.
I tend to agree with that. And like I said, Derek Lively, young player, maybe he just said something stupid. Maybe he wasn't thinking, but I'll give Derek maybe a pass on that just because he's young and maybe dumb. But Draymond Green, he has it out for Rudy Gobert, and he's not even trying to hide it.
He's a troll.
Yeah, he's a troll, absolutely. And the NBA finally this year got fed up with him enough to suspend him for a couple games. But anyway, I think we'll put an exclamation point on it there. Chris, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, doing good, man. I can't wait for our next one. And, I don't know how many days we are away, but it's got to be like 40 or something by now.
Yeah, something like that. I'm hoping to hit up a preseason game. There's only one preseason game, right? Or in Minnesota, or is there more? I don't know. I'd have to look at the schedule. Anyway, this is the Running with the Timberwolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, and give us a 5-star rating on Spotify and or Apple. And in the comments, let us know what player you want us to talk about for 25 to 30 minutes next. Let us know in the comments. And as always, go Wolves.